Hello, folks. This is Greg Gilbert, host of Python's Paradise. And you know what? Doing a little update. Some people do this, but I'm going to do a little update on this right here, the Friday the 13th box set, which I have. I got it empty right now. I'm going to do a re-ranking of this, and of course I grew up with this franchise, and I got to reevaluate because since getting a new television, I kind of notice I go back to certain movies and I don't watch these quite the way I used to. Some I watch more than others, but of course I got this big box set here, which I've had for a couple years now. Got this really cool booklet that comes with it. All kinds of info. You even got a collector's edition Friday the 13th bonus materials. I did a ranking video on this franchise, I don't know, I think a couple years ago when I got this, and I'm kind of sitting here thinking, you know what, I should do another one, because my thoughts and my rankings are kind of different than what they once were, and I thought I would do a new one and go through the 12 films. I'm going to start from least to favorite and take it from there. If I can get my phone to stand up here correctly. And we shall. Ask and you shall receive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is not gonna work. Okay, I'll just do it this way then. Fuck it. Alright. At number 12, get that glare of that light out from behind me. There we are. At number 12, my least favorite and the one I go back the least on this franchise is Jason X. I haven't watched this since I got this box set. I saw this in the theater. I think it's a pretty shitty fucking movie. I know they made it in between Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy vs. Jason, but I'm not against the concept of it. I'm against the execution of it. It was too hokey. It wasn't scary. It was just pure fucking bullshit. The final girl... Was there a final girl? Pretty shitty. It was kind of cool seeing David Cronenberg get talked into this. I did like Lisa Ryder as the android. She'd be the only character I thought was worth her salt. And watching her go at it against Jason was pretty funny. Pretty interesting, but this is really... This is the one I go to the least. It was number 12 before. It's still number 12 now. So that is my number 12. Number 11 was one that really knocked down the list compared to what it was. This is one I had higher before. It's gone lower. And that is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Technically, I think this is one of the better films. But in terms of my go back and watch, I don't do it a lot. I don't like a lot of the different shifts it makes. Um, I like Adam Marcus, the director. Um, I love the references to Evil Dead and Creep Show that are in it. But I don't know, incorporating a sister into this, I didn't much care for, though I did like the character of Creighton Duke, the bounty hunter. Some of the backstory I didn't mind at all. I think my biggest issue is the fact that, this is directed by Adam Marcus, and there's a lot of attention goes to Jason Goes to Hell, but I think Secret Santa is a far, far better example of his work. And so, not that that should dictate how I feel about Jason Goes to Hell, but no, I'm not even a big fan of Carrie Keegan as Jessica Kimball in it, because let's face it, Allison Smith was a far more likable character. I would have liked her to have been the final girl. I think a lot of people may agree with that. But nonetheless, this kind of really fell down the list for me. It's at number 11, although it's eons better than Jason X. In fact, I'd even say it's better than the next film, but I don't know, I find myself going back and watching the next film, and that brings me to number 10, Jason Takes Manhattan. This film really shit the bed. Spent most of its time on a boat, when really we just wanted him in Manhattan. And of course, due to the budgeting and all that bullshit, we didn't get that. We kind of got cheated on this film in many ways. I'm going to tell you the most memorable thing about the movie is I really liked Peter Mark Richmond as the professor in it. I've had him on my show twice before his passing, and I really liked him in it. And I think every time he's on screen, he elevates it. And but I didn't like the whole telepathic whole bullshit with Jason, who would appear one place and then he's in another place. And I did like the theme song. I don't remember the band or even the name of the song, but opens and closes the film. I did like that. But for Paramount Pictures, this was not the film to go out on. I would love to see them get the rights back and make a proper Friday the 13th Part 9. Why end on 8? Do a 9th, do a 10th. Come on. But nonetheless, I thought the ending of this film was purely stupid. I'm sure Jason as a kid, after that sewage wash up, was in the girl's head, Jensen Daggett's head, but nonetheless, there's a lot of stupidity in this film. When he does get to New York, a lot of it's spent in the sewer or in back alleys, so you don't get your money's worth on this film. So it's at number 10 for me. Now, let's finally put the nail in the coffin for the Kane Hodder films as number 9, Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. This was the first one I saw in the theater at our old closed up Twin Cinema across the river. I have a few problems though. It elevated up the list a little bit for me because I kind of like the look of the film, especially the woods in it. And the telepathic part of it was kind of fun. But, and I love Lara Park Lincoln. And she knows I love Lara Park Lincoln. She's a delight. I have a few problems with this. Number one, Kevin Sparetis, Kevin Blair from this movie. I could not stand his character. I wanted to see a final girl showdown, not this guy getting in the way. Not Here's the thing, and this one thing that didn't make any sense with me with this movie was that the lengths they went to keep him alive. You know, if you watch Jason Lives, you know, you got Horshack comes up, runs up behind Jason, hits him with a shovel. He turns around and he punches his fist through him. Got his heart beating in his hand on the other side. And this here, it's got such one of the most uncharacteristic things I've ever seen Jason do. And I think it's the worst scene I've seen in all these movies, even worse than anything I've seen in Jason X. And that's saying something. You know, you got Kevin Blair firing a bunch of rounds in Jason. Jason bats the gun out of his hand and pushes him into a canoe. Really? Has he gotten soft? Why were they keeping this guy alive? I couldn't stand him. He had no personality, had really no business being there other than to be a potential fuck buddy for Telekinetic Tina. So I did not like him. There was another scene where he got knocked out again, or the first time I should say, and Jason's about to tramp his foot through him until his mask gets squished into his head, which was a great reveal. I mean, Jason's look in this film was great with the exposed spine and skeletal frame, and you know, he's disgusting looking. This was probably Kane Hodder's best as Jason. I compare this film a lot with the final chapter because they're great to watch in terms of how you write characters and how you don't write characters. The final chapter had great characters. This had shitty characters. Except for Tina. I did like Tina. You know, and Terry Kaiser playing the nasty doctor, trying to exploit her, but and the ending of this film was really stupid. So, and I could have done without Kevin Blair being a survivor in it. Have a one-on-one between those two. She didn't need the crutch. So this is number 9. So that's pretty much Kane Hodder. Nothing against him, but not a big fan of his Jason films. Up next, number 8, Freddy vs. Jason. I saw this in the theater, and of course I got it signed by the guy portraying Jason, Ken Kirchensing shirt. I met at Frightmare in the Falls. I had a couple problems with Freddy vs. Jason. Number 1, you know, you got a lot of background on the Elm Street films, which of course were owned by New Line. The background stuff they did on Jason, I thought was kind of shitty. Too bad they didn't have footage to use the Paramount films for background. But nonetheless, there was a lot of narrative stuff I did like in this, especially stuff involving sleep and the institution and stuff like that. The cornfield scene was excellent, and it was kind of cool to see a very brief cameo by Zach Ward in the bathtub, and Freddy form was actually kind of cool too, you know. This was not horrible, but I wish it could have been better than it was. But it's number 8. Number 7. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. signed, of course, by Dick Wayne himself, Roy. I had a few problems with this movie. Part of my issue is the directing. The director was horrible. Of course, known for doing porn. You can tell by watching it, but I had a lot of problems with this movie. I think it's the weakest version of Tommy Jarvis we got. And I didn't care for Roy. I actually kind of wish that they played off with the idea of having Tommy be the killer. But of course, people wanted Jason. Just like with Halloween 3, people didn't like that. They wanted Michael Myers. And, of course, if they went that route, we wouldn't have got Jason Lives, which, judging by the fact I haven't mentioned it yet, I liked it better. But nonetheless, I kind of wish they kind of went that route and played around with post-traumatic syndrome and stuff with incident like that, and played around with that. Might have been interesting. There's a lot of humorous moments. I love the Ethel and Junior moments. I love the coked-up ambulance driver was funny. Tiffany Helm as Violet with the Sindoako song, His Eyes. I think Melanie Kinnaman was absolutely gorgeous. And swings a nasty chainsaw. And she was beautiful. But I felt this film existed mainly for body count. And I did not like Roy. And part of the reason I didn't like Roy is because, with the exception of a neon sign, we kind of know he's the killer. You got situations where the camera just lingers on him, like we can't tell. You got scenes where he says, "You talking to me, officer? Thought you were talking," like stop that shit. And then where Melanie Kinnaman gets down to the ambulance, how did he get there before him? Before her, and he's stuff like that drives me fucking nuts. And he's busting through doors and stuff like Jason, like we're trying to be fooled by that. There was a lot of interesting characters who would have been right at home in a screwball comedy. Instead, they were in a screwball slasher film. So it is number 7 for me. But I do like Melanie Kinnaman. Number 6. This one went up the list for me. The Reboot. I don't like to look at it as a reboot, though. I love the fact that they're combining the first 4. You got a little bit of the background from the original, and you got him as Sackhead. When he loses the sack off his head and he finds that hockey mask, I kind of like to look at this as kind of like a continuation, not a reboot. So I'm able to appreciate it from that standpoint. I thought the characters were highly generic. I didn't care. Well, I'll tell you one thing that sold me on it. That opening prologue scene, that whole bit was great. I wish the rest of the movie followed suit on that. Derek Mears is my second favorite Jason. And the scene alone where he's running at that woman with the machete and she's crawling backwards away, great stuff. So hands off to Derek Mears, my second favorite Jason. And I saw this in the theater. Not huge on rewatch for me, but nonetheless, I'll give it its dues. Number 5, the original. When I found out that there was an actual snake killed in the cabin scene, that knocked this down quite a bit for me, and the enjoyment and replayability, because They had Tom Savini there. They could have cut away when he swings a machete down. It, to me, says a lot about the incompetence of Sean Cunningham as a filmmaker that he had to resort to that. That's Cannibal Holocaust bullshit. Don't fucking do that. But nonetheless, I like the look of the film. It's very ominous. Had a crush on Adrienne King growing up from this film, so I liked her. I love the reveal. Another thing I find problematic about this, they call it a whodunit, but to me a whodunit is when it's like, oh, that person did it. And of course the reveal turns out to be somebody you've never seen in previous parts of the movie. So I got some signatures on there. Ari Lehman and Adrienne King both signed this. So I can appreciate this film, but it's no Halloween, not even close. And but nonetheless, it does have rewatchability. I just can't stand the snake scene. But I do love the fact that that third act, you get Adrienne King isolated in that camp by herself. I wish they would go back to isolating the final girls, not with these Kevin Blair people that to be a crutch, you know. So there you go. She could have used telekinesis in this. Number 4. Part 3. I enjoy Part 3 a lot. I love the look of the film. I love this is the one, of course, where he gets a hockey mask. Richard Brooker, really good Jason. I think he's my third favorite to wear the mask. Not a huge fan of... I got nothing against Dana Kimmel. Not a big fan of her character, Chris Higgins. Too bitchy. I'm planning to meet Tracy Savage at Frightmare in the Falls. One of my big crushes. Her as Debbie. She's gorgeous. And it's mentioned she's pregnant in the movie. I would have had her be the final girl. That would have been, she had a nice cool demeanor. She wasn't shitting on Shelley. I would have had her be the final girl. Nonetheless, Part 3 is my number 4. Never seen it in 3D yet. We're down to the top 3. My number 3 is Part 2. And I got a lot of signatures on that. You know, Warrington Gillette, Amy Steele, Lauren Marie Taylor. I've interviewed a number of people from this too, including Gillette and Taylor and Bill Randolph, among others. Part 2 is basically Part 1, only it's got Jason. So I'll give Part 1 over Part 2 on that. But this one here has got a much better pace to it. Amy Steele as Jenny Field, I thought, was a terrific final girl. Didn't do it all by herself, mind you, but she did definitely use her child psychology to her as a great defense in this. So, and I love the shish kebab scene in it. It's my favorite kill in the movie. So, Part 2 is my number 3. Now, my number 1 and 2 are the same as before, but reversed. Now, when I previously did it, I had Jason Lives at number 1. But Jason Lives has got to go to number 2. Although if I was rating them, Jason Lives would probably score the highest. Because I think narratively it's got one of the better screenplays. I love the humor that Tom McLaughlin brings to the film. And I think that this was... I thought C.J. Graham was a great Jason. Tom Matthews was a great Tommy. I love the fact you get a car chase in this. I love the paintball scene. I love the opening Frankenstein montage reference to it. I love the climax of the film. You get kids in the camp. I love the RV scene. And I love Nancy McLaughlin, who's a friend of mine. And always felt bad for poor Carrie Noonan as Paula, who was a good girl, didn't break rules, and she still met a nasty end. But I love this film. I love the Alice Cooper's music in it. This is a fun movie. The RV flip, this is a fun time, and I gotta put it at number 2. Which brings me to number 1, which was number 2 before. But I'm doing this because when I got my TV, the first movie I watched in it was Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And it seems to be my go-to out of the franchise when there's a Friday the 13th. Because I think this is the definitive slasher. I think Ted White is by far the best Jason out of the bunch. He was intense, he was frightening, he was brutal, and I was honored to have him on the show twice. I love the characters in this film. Everything from the two morgue attendants to the family next door to the teenagers. When you got like Crispin Glover and Lawrence Bonoson and it's stealing scenes, and you get the twins, and you get the issues with Sam and her boyfriend and all this. I love that. It made the characters a lot more elevated, and I enjoyed that in it. I love the Jason Hunter element in it, how it ties into part 2. And Corey Feldman is like a miniature Tom Savini, very resourceful. And I loved Kimberly Beck as Trish Jarvis. And she doesn't get enough credit for the battle damage she does to Jason. One of my favorite scenes in this entire franchise is where she throws herself head first out through a window. She has a choice between either going through Jason or going through a window and risking it. She goes through the window. Fantastic stuff. Love it. I give that a lot of props. I also loved it whenever she was trying to ward him off with the machete, Some massive battle damage. So Trish Jarvis as a final girl. Kimberly Beck was fantastic. Loved her in this. I love the look of this film. Joseph Zito previously did The Prowler. He's got a lot of the same look in this. And Savini's makeup effects, everything. I love this movie. And I think it's the scariest one. That's just my opinion. But it's my go-to of the franchise. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. So, I don't know if people can still get that box set anymore. If you can't, that's it's unfortunate, but it is definitely well worth the grab. I'm glad I have it. And, yeah. That is my second ranking of this franchise. There's a few changes in there. And, going basically on rewatchability for me. And there you have it. So, haven't got this? Get it. So, with that said, folks, this is Python signing out. Well, happy Friday the 13th, whenever that happens next.